to the cloud. The petrochemical industry's answer to the failure of plastics recycling is this new myth called chemical recycling, or it's also called advanced recycling. And what this is actually just plastic burning. And I'm going to go into a little bit about what chemical recycling is and what the legislation that we're looking for in state legislatures and with the United States Environmental Protection Agency, their policies towards environmental or chemical recycling. So it's an umbrella term, chemical or advanced recycling, and it usually refers to one of these terms. Pyrolysis is the most common, but you also see methanolysis, gasification, solvolysis, lots of ISs. But it's the same basic recipe of high heat and chemicals to turn plastic back into its molecular components. So the Global Alliance for Incineration Alternatives has released a lot of literature on chemical recycling. I'm not an expert in the processes, so I'm not going to describe those in too much detail, but basically what it is turning plastic into low-grade fuel that is then burned. But what the American Chemistry Council claims is that this is a process that turns plastic into new plastic. So the idea is that plastic is made from oil and gas, and the gas, usually it's ethane gas, is high. They use high heat to crack the molecular bonds in the ethane and turn it into ethylene, which is the monomer of polyethylene. So they take the monomer of plastic, string it together, and that's what you get, polyethylene, okay. And that becomes the resin. So the nurdles. So ethane is turned into nurdles. I'm fuzzy on the chemistry. That's the basic recipe, but you don't really need to know the chemistry to know that plastic is made from fossil fuels and that plastic doesn't biodegrade because the bonds in that monomer is so stable. So the products are disposed of, and then we get this mountain of plastic waste that we don't have anything that we can do with it. We can't recycle it. It's winding up in landfills, incinerators, in the environment. We have chemical recycling, which is basically shredding the plastic and melting it down to be reformed. So we're taking it back to the polymer stage. But chemical recycling claims that it can actually turn the plastic back into the basic monomers to be rebuilt into new plastic products. Now, this has been achieved in a laboratory before, but it has never been achieved at commercial scale. And by that, I mean a chemical recycling plant, which I have a picture of in a minute, has never been able to turn plastic into new plastic through chemical recycling. It's always turned into fuel to be burned, low-grade fuel. And I have a short video. Oop. Sorry, I'll have to turn my headphones off so you can hear the video.
Carbon result.
There's no voice.
Yeah, we can't hear
no.
anything, Alexis.
You can't hear it? Oh, no.
No.
Is it YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens on YouTube.
Let me see if you can hear it now. Can you hear it now?
Yes, I can. Yes.
You've probably heard about new technologies that claim to break plastic waste down into its basic components to make new plastic. The industry calls it chemical recycling or advanced recycling. But here are 5 things plastic polluters don't want you to know about chemical recycling. 1. Chemical recycling is the latest in a long series of failed technologies to address the plastic waste crisis. Despite decades of promises and development, commercial or large-scale operations are rare. 2. Chemical recycling uses a lot of energy, yet produces very little output. In fact, most chemical recycling is actually plastic to fuel, where plastic is broken down and the end product is burned. This turns plastic into CO2, not new plastic, making it a climate polluter. And there are big questions over toxicity and the effect on human health. 3. High-profile failures, low yield, and technical immaturity make chemical recycling a poor investment. As of 2017, over $2 billion has been wasted on failed or canceled projects. 4. The myth of chemical recycling props up the throwaway economy and diverts attention from the big changes needed for circularity. It means plastic producers can justify pumping out ever more plastic by claiming it can be chemically recycled. 5. The ugly truth is that the biggest promoters of chemical recycling are big oil, plastic producers, and consumer brands, including many of the worst plastic polluters. Many of these companies are hooked on plastic to keep making profits at the expense of the planet. So, what do we need to do to tackle the global plastic crisis? Firstly, it's critical that we identify and call out false solutions like chemical recycling, but we also need to significantly reduce plastic production by switching to reusable or refillable packaging, increasing collection, and improving conventional recycling, as well as by introducing robust rules and ensuring corporate accountability.
I've been getting paid $1,000.
So that's from Gaia, and they have basically the leading research on chemical recycling. But I want to get into the policy of it. So we know that burning waste has major pollution impacts, not just on the climate, but it also releases all of those chemicals that are in the plastic into the air. It's basically turning landfills into air pollution. This is a photo of a cement kiln in Ravenna, New York that wants to burn municipal waste and tires as a fuel. And the other issue is that this entrenches our economy further into burning waste for fuel and extraction for virgin materials, which eventually become waste and eventually become fuel. These facilities are usually sited near vulnerable communities. So that smokestack I just showed you is right here in the red circle, and in the blue circle is the local high school. So it's literally right across the street from this major source of air pollution. But burning waste in this cement kiln has not become a reality because of community organizers in Ravenna that have basically watchdogged this facility, and they've lobbied the Department of Environmental Conservation and their county government and the state legislature to prohibit burning waste in this facility. This is a photo of BioHigh-Tech, and it's just an example of the way that burning waste entrenches our economy further into extraction and burning. So this is a facility that takes municipal trash and it basically separates out the plastic and paper and shreds it, and then that shredded plastic and paper gets shipped to another facility where it's burned. This facility is sited, it's proposed here in the red square in the city of Rensselaer, which is also in New York. And here in the blue circle is the Public Housing Authority, which again is less than a mile away. So all of this is to say that we know that burning waste is a bad idea and that it contributes to environmental injustice and climate change. But how is the ACC getting the waste burning under the radar? So they're using two main legislative tools. They're introducing bills in state legislatures to promote chemical and advanced recycling. In New York, we have a bill proposed by State Senator Mannion. It's called the Advanced Recycling Bill. And basically these bills have been introduced or passed in about 20 states so far. And all of these bills use the same two definitions. So every piece of legislation, it starts with definitions after the bill summary. So the key words in the bill are defined very specifically so that we know legally what they mean in the bill. So plastic waste and chemical recycling are two things that are defined in these bills. And these bills define plastic waste as feedstock and explicitly say that they shall not be defined as solid waste. And then second, chemical or advanced recycling, whatever they're referring to in the bill, is defined in the bill as manufacturing, and it says it shall not be defined as incineration, whether or not it is actually incineration. This is how they're legally defining it in the bills. So this is very important, and the reason is because of the Clean Air Act. So hopefully we all know that the Clean Air Act is the primary federal law that was passed in the 1960s that regulates air emissions from major sources of pollution. So under Section 129 of the Clean Air Act, which I should have said CAA, not CCA, the EPA is required to regulate emissions from any facility that burns solid waste, i.e. an incinerator that burns plastic. So by defining plastic waste not as solid waste, but as feedstock, and by defining chemical recycling not as incineration, but as manufacturing, the American Chemistry Council and other proponents of these bills are basically trying to skirt the Clean Air Act, which would deprive people of their equal protection under the law for a safe and healthy environment. This is a photo of an actual chemical recycling facility. This is Brightmark, which is in Ashley, Indiana. It's about 30 minutes away from where I grew up. And this facility turns plastic waste into low-grade fuel to be burned, though it's not currently operating. And interestingly, this facility is actually permitted as an incinerator with the Indiana Department of Natural Resources. So it is advertised in Indiana as a circular solution, as a green solution, a green business, but this is all about turning fossil fuels back into fossil fuels to be burned so that we can keep extracting fossil fuels and turning them into plastics. So this is an outdated map, but it will give you an idea of where these proposals have happened. A lot of it overlaps with where plastic has been manufactured. And now this is going to the Environmental Protection Agency. So the EPA requested information at the end of 2022 on whether to regulate advanced recycling facilities as incinerators. We, Beyond Plastics, submitted comments that obviously, yes, they should regulate these facilities as incinerators because they are incinerators, along with many of our allies that break free from plastic. But the EPA has not ruled on this, and we are expecting there to be a grassroots effort in all the states to basically force the EPA to regulate advanced recycling or chemical recycling as incineration. So this is an ongoing effort. There's no action for you to take at this time, except to just know what this process is and be aware of it. And you can always let me know if you know of any laws that have been introduced in your state legislature about chemical recycling or advanced recycling, and then be on the lookout for this grassroots movement, or this grassroots campaign rather. We're coordinating it along with Break Free from Plastic and Earth Justice to not allow these facilities to be built across the US, because it would really set us back for stopping the production of plastic and for, you know, our air quality and quality of life. So any questions about chemical recycling? Seema.
Hey, Alexis. I saw on the map that Illinois has passed a legislation on advanced recycling. So what does that mean for Illinois then?
So I would have to see the actual bill, but it is likely that same bill that basically says that chemical recycling will be regulated as manufacturing. So I would have to see what that means, but it could mean that if a facility wants to come to Illinois and claims that it's a chemical recycling facility, that it wouldn't be regulated as an incinerator. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Edna, then Louise.
Okay, would you be able to tell me what organization to get in contact with in Virginia, where my daughter lives, who I know will care about this?
So if you want resources, I recommend reaching out to the Global Alliance for Incinerator Alternatives, GAIA, and I'll put their link in the chat.
Thank you.
Louise?
Oh, thank you so much for informing us about all this. I think it's extremely important. And if there's no campaign yet, are there any petitions that anybody has started? And do you know if there's anything happening in California? But before there's more legislation proposed, I think it would be helpful to have people be more proactive in trying to get attention out about this and have the EPA get some letters.
Yeah, we don't currently have an action like that, though I'll keep my eyes peeled for one, because nobody is really working on this full time except for Gaia. So that is the problem. We're just super outgunned in the Break Free from Plastic Coalition. One thing I will say about California that we're concerned about is the extended producer responsibility bill that just passed in California does not ban chemical recycling.
Right.
So that's concerning. We really want any extended producer responsibility bill that is passed to explicitly say that chemical recycling is not considered recycling in the bill. So
thank you.
I'll try and get you more information though, Louise.
Thank you.
Tamala, then Seema.
Yeah, so in Pennsylvania, I just got news from my Climate Reality chapter that they're going to be building a plant. And so according to your map, that there's laws that I guess they're calling it manufacturing or whatever. So I'm just trying to think of like the best way to tackle that if it's not under the protection of the Clean Air Act or Pennsylvania's right to clean air and water. Yeah.
Has it already been permitted?
I don't know. I just got the information email, and because I've been working on a bunch of stuff, I haven't had a chance to look real close. I think it might have, because they said they're going to be building it in 1 year. So I don't know. I'm not sure.
Can you forward me the information? I have heard of this. Is it by PTTG?
I think so. I think so.
Yeah, so PTTG, they wanted to build an ethane cracker in Belmont County, Ohio. That's looking less and less likely, though I can't say that the project is dead yet. So it seems to me, I've heard through the grapevine that this chemical recycling plant is something to kind of soothe the environmental concerns about building a new ethane cracker, but of course it's just greenwashing. So I could put you in touch with people who are working on the ethane cracker that might know more about this chemical recycling plant. Can you forward me that info, Tamala?
Okay, I'll do that.
Yeah. Seema?
So now that we're looking at an EPR bill in Illinois, would we be able to put in that chemical recycling is not considered as recycling, since we have that legislation already in Illinois? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, you could definitely ask for that amendment, and you might have to do some education with the legislators. So I'd love to catch up on where EPR is at in Illinois right now.
Sure.
That's what we have in the New York State bill. And it's also in there's language in the Break Free from Plastic Pollution Act as well. Under the definition of recycling, it says recycling shall not be considered advanced recycling, chemical recycling, gasification, solvolysis, pyrolysis, methanolysis, and all those other licenses.
Alexis, just real quick, it's Encina. Encina recycling plant.
Encina. Okay. Yes, I have heard about this. Let me see if I can find some resources for you.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Let me make a note to myself. Okay, made a note for myself. Okay, any other thoughts, questions? Probably more concerns now than before the meeting. I think it's 8:30, so I feel comfortable wrapping up. I will send all of the agenda items in a follow-up email tomorrow so you can see all the links. The Trader Joe's letter campaign, all the news articles are in the agenda, and any notes that I took from the meeting are in the agenda. So thank you everybody for coming, and stay in touch. We'll see you next month, and maybe we'll see you at the trainings this weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night
Goodbye.
all.